Okay. Good everything, everybody. happy Happy Black History. Hi, Dr. Carr.
Hey, Professor Hunter, I love this. This is the latest, huh? Love it. The blackest Black History Month. 24/7, 365. Nubia. There we are.
Yes.
I
That's
am loving this.
that's all
So fair.
Urias. I said here's the phrase. Do what you do.
And Uraeus
Do what
hooked
you
it
do.
up.
Let
Got
me
that.
tell you, so I was running in. I did a sauna this morning. I'm getting back into my flow.
Wonderful.
Yeah. No, this is the default, the norm. And I'm
Yes.
watching Sly Lives. I'm finishing up Sly Lives.
The Questlove joint. How is it?
So it's no, it's great. It's all great.
I mean,
And
I haven't seen it, so that's why I'm asking. Yeah.
this is where I landed.
Mm.
To that point, you say a phrase, I throw it over to Urias. He creates. There we have art. And
Mm.
as I'm watching Sly, there's no Prince. We can go down to genealogy because a lot of times when we are in class, you will bring up a name and then go on a string of the begets, like in the Bible. And some people are like, why is he naming all of these people? Because the genealogy is important. We don't just arrive here. We are the sum total of all of the people that poured into us, but also all of the influences. We're going to talk about Kendrick today. And I was just sitting there like, I didn't know that song came from him. So Arrested Development, I did know that one. But there were so many songs. And then I landed on what we do every week. And in many ways, I know what my purpose is, but I've always kind of known I'm a conductor. I'm gonna bring the thing from here and do this and then throw it over there. Or if we're going in a direction, I'm gonna, get everybody on the train and we're gonna,
Just
but
like Harriet.
watching Slide, not like Harriet, because that she was something else, but again, like me. And it's okay
It's
for
okay.
us to, art, we'll remember Sly in some very negative ways because the media will throw people into the trash after they're done with them. But it's our responsibility, and that's why Saturday with you is so important. It's our responsibility to never allow that to happen and to throw people into the future in their wholeness, in their completeness.
Mm.
And this is the assignment. So I was excited, because I was like, oh, we're doing something. I'm about to go in and we're going to do something because it's important. It's important because there are maybe 2-3 generations that don't know the impact of a Sly, don't know the impact of a man that, they were like, how you form your band? He was like, nepotism, my brother, my sister, and
No,
I pulled some friends in.
no question.
But the magic of the music, the magic of what he was able to produce, we are still basking in. And I'm just like, I was inspired this morning. And I just think, the assignment, we like to cancel people, and we do. And some people's actions are cancelable, but their art should never be. We should never cancel the art. We should always, hold accountable the folk and the things that they do. But the art is what is the thread that connects us all. And I was just so inspired this morning. So I wanted to share that.
Thank you. Uh, I'm looking forward to looking at the documentary. Glad to hear and grateful to hear your um, description of the arc. Some of the stories are well known. We know that there was a biography published a few years ago on Sylvester Stone, and also grateful, especially for the way that you evoke culture. Yeah, whoever that is, whistling. That's all right, Doge. You Doge boys are you muskrats. Whoever y'all are in Ghosts in the Machine, that's just fine. There was news, I guess I saw some news overnight where three of these posiers, it doesn't really matter if they're real or not, right? Showed up at San Francisco City Hall with Doge caps and Make America Great Again, saying they needed access to records. I'm loving it. It's beautiful.
Wait,
Y'all,
didn't they get hacked? Like
well,
with
yeah,
all,
of course
with
they
all
did.
of the genius,
Of course
you
they did.
you got hacked in 3 days after putting up this,
But of course they did.
dark web.
The muskrats are children. They're not experts. And here's a bulletin to those who may not know. Elon Musk don't know nothing either. So I mean, this is a beautiful thing for me. I'm really enjoying watching it because not in a nihilistic kind of apocalyptic let the world burn way, not at all, but rather these things are going to have to be resolved.
Yes.
So I mean, and they will be. But
And just to tie a bow on the Sly Stallone, Sly
no,
Stallone,
we didn't leave.
boo, boo. just a
That's okay. That's
typo.
where he got his nickname from.
Mm,
Sylvester.
just a typo. You know,
Mm-hmm.
King had been assassinated, Kennedy, Bobby, and John, and we're in the war, and there's the hippies, and there's Ehrlichman, and there's a lot happening. And this man's vision for a world where we are all everyday people.
How
I just
about that? How about that?
and oh, the last thing I just
No,
want to
not
say
at all. This is beautiful.
the
Beautiful. Beautiful.
you know, he was very musically gifted, like to the point that his music teacher was like, you don't even need any more classes, just go out and produce your art. And the record labels, the records that he was producing were too complicated, and they weren't a hit. Like people, it wasn't a hit. So he went back and was like, okay, dance to the music, you know, we're gonna just do something real simple. Boom, 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 you know.
Exactly.
And I was laughing about it because, you know, there's a scripture about, you know, solid food, you know, babies, and you know, and those of you who are parents, you know, you can't give your child steak and eggs. You know, you're gonna have to give them formula. I just feel like as a nation, as people, we are on a perpetual diet of formula, of infamil, you know, of breast
Mm.
milk. But we're not eating solid food. And Sly was like, okay, y'all can't take what I'm giving you. So I'm going to distill it down to something really simple. And it's important because even sometimes we have this conversation that, you know, the work is dense. Y'all may not know, if you go to the bibliography, Dr. Carr is layering and layering and layering. But if
Trying.
you only have had formula for your entire life, that is going to hurt your tummy and your brain. So I wanted to
Mm.
ask you this question. Started, I came in excited. I'm sorry.
No,
But
this is what we want. This is where we are, no question. And that's what we need is the enthusiasm. Yes.
is the I know the answer to this physiologically, the brain being a muscle. So I think about, like, I was sharing with you that I had to knock the rust off from not reading, but
Yeah.
only listening to books for almost a whole year. And it was daunting and scary to me because I was like, did I lose the ability to process and concentrate? But now it's back. It's back in full. But it had already been, you know, like anybody that's been in the gym, you can be out of the gym. It's going to take you a couple of weeks to get back, but once you get back, you'll get back in rhythm. But if you've never done it, and we have probably two generations that haven't done it, how do we get them from here to there? Using that milk to solid food analogy, is the brain a muscle? And if it is, what's the best way to exercise it? Because we need full brains in this point, and you can't be mad if your brain ain't caught up yet. You know what I'm saying? You can't
Well,
just be like, well, oh,
here's
these
the truth
people
of it.
just talking down to me. No, get your weight up.
Get your weight up. And you can. And nobody's gonna leave you. We will leave you if you decide you don't want to go, but I don't believe in leave no child behind. Some children, a lot of people gonna get left behind, but that's because not because they won't have the opportunity, they won't have the resources, and we won't surround you. I mean, that's what we have to do because the only way nobody gets left behind is if we don't go anywhere. I mean, our mentor Ross left plenty people. That would be Harriet Tubman, of course. And so when I made the comparison, it wasn't a literal comparison, it is a metaphorical one in the sense that there have to be agents who conduct. In fact, Fred, you said that conductor. Uh, this sister right here is fire. She did a book on the Underground Railroad. Was it been 10 years? 7, 8 years ago. I'm
But
looking to
you
see if
just
I,
you just happen to have that right there. You just happen to have
no,
that.
no, because it just came out. This just came out. In fact, um, last Friday, no, the Friday before last, no, Saturday before last, Black History Month. No, it was Friday, wasn't it? The Gerald Horn was at Sankofa, and I saw the sister who works with this sister Cheryl LaRoche. This is Cheryl LaRoche's new book on Paul Quinn, Bishop Paul Quinn, called Apostle of Liberation, Bishop AME Bishop Paul Quinn and the Underground Railroad. Excellent book. She does excellent work. In fact, her book on free Black communities in the Underground Railroad, the geography of resistance, came out in 2011. I'm looking down the back. That reminds me, yeah. So it's been about almost 15 years ago. But what Cheryl LaRoche traces in here is how this brother, and you see him there, he is the person for whom Paul Quinn College is named, university is named for in Texas. He rode his horse everywhere. He was a traveling preacher. And before it was over, Paul Quinn, who was around when the AME Church was born, and then he made transition in 1873. In fact, let me see if I can find uh, a nice page so you can get a sense of who this brother is. But the metaphor of conductor is appropriate here in the second half now of the Blackest History Month. It's about to get real for me. I got like 3 places to be today. So the Jacob Carruthers conference, by the way, is today. It starts in about 10 minutes Central Standard Time. And I think I'm going to give about a 30-minute talk, and then Mario Beatty's going to talk after me. I'm going to introduce him. He's going to talk. And Angie Porter is going to talk. She's going to be actually in Atlanta, Clark, Atlanta. I'll talk about that in a moment. Shout out to Brother Mally Davis, Attorney Mally Davis, our liberation attorney down there in Atlanta. But yeah, and then I'm going to leave, and very, very important institution, very new institution, Ifa University. Developed and hatched in the brain of a collective that has been conducted and guided by my brother Kola Abambola, Baba Kola, Master Babalawo, lawyer, 2 PhDs. You know how these Nigerians do. They just, when they do it, they do it. And been on faculty for a number of years at Howard in the philosophy department, teaching African philosophy. Just a beautiful brother. And I'm going to be in community with them. They're celebrating today. I think it's their 10th anniversary, but at any rate, I'm gonna go out there with them this afternoon. So just thinking about it in the context of this work, because many people are conductors, and when I saw Gerald saying Sankofa is a place of conduction, where people are there to meet, to gather, to think, to move forward, and be inspired and instructed. And so, yeah, I was approached, and the sister said, "Oh, we want you to interview Cheryl Roche." I said, "Yeah, I know Cheryl Roche. I read her book. I read her book, her first book." And the sister's like, "Well, here's her second book," and she gave it to me, and I said, "Oh no, I need it signed because they live in the area." And she said, "Oh, you want me to get it signed?" I said, "Yeah. In fact, we should just meet up." And she said, "Yes, yeah, so I'm going to meet them one day next week. Actually, probably when I get back, I'm traveling because on Tuesday evening at Benedict College. The annual Listerville Middleton lecture is on Tuesday. I'm going to hear Dr. Reba Kelsey, who's going to be giving a lecture this year. But the ASCAC folk down there in the southern region of ASCAC, particularly South Carolina, are so strong. You know, that's where I was last year. I hope I get a chance to go over and see the good elder Cecil Williams and the Cecil Williams Museum, the South Carolina History Museum that I was talking about last year around this time. I was hoping them would give me a second here to look. But the hope, what I'm raising though in the context of conduction, none of these people are Harriet Tubman, but as Cheryl writes in this book, Paul Quinn is a conductor. And you see, I love how this artwork has him on this horse with this Bible in his hand. And I was hoping, but let me just go here now, and I'll, if I can't quote it literally, I will give you a sense, or it might actually be in the at the end, because he is after he makes transition. Y'all give me a second here. Receiving his crown. Yeah. Let's see. National Park Service is catching hell. Oh well, I didn't realize that because I haven't gotten to the end of the book yet. But I'm looking now. The National Park Service has also recognized Quinn in his home for their association with the Underground Railroad. Of the more than 3,500 AME churches in the United States, at least 42 are named in honor of him, which makes a whole lot of sense. If you've never heard of Paul Quinn, that's somebody you should know. I'm trying to see if I can find something here. Okay, I'll just go back to the preface because it's a beautiful thing here. Here we are. Carrying his Bible in a saddlebag, Quinn was the first African Methodist circuit rider to mount a horse to preach. The independent Black denomination honed its leadership across the seminal events of American history. Born of the Black Atlantic, Quinn, that's Quinn, Quinn's life stretched across that global sphere, ranging from his birth of mixed parentage in Central America, probably Honduras, Afro Honduras, to his refuge in Europe and his passage to North America, the internationalization of the AME Church in Canada, the Caribbean, and Africa helped Quinn confront the racial power imbalances that impacted his world. His religious work in building Black institutions ensured the overall well being and protection of enslaved, escaped, and free people of color. Two guiding objectives motivated his activism. In the AME Church, he pushed for religious freedom. His work on the Underground Railroad, defined as resistance to slavery through flight and escape, sought to bring an end to slavery and uphold universal equality. He was born in 1788, by the way. So he lived a very long time. This guy, I wish I could find the numbers for you very quickly because he traveled thousands of miles. He was on horseback. He set up a lot of AME churches, and this is what she's writing in her first book. Many of the AME churches that he started, that he set up, were in the Midwest, and he set them up for two reasons. One, of course, to grow the AME church, but also they served as uh, stations on the Underground Railroad. This man was a conductor. Paul Quinn is the man. And I'm thinking about that in the context of what you raised, because Paul Quinn didn't have to do what Harriet Tubman did. Harriet Tubman didn't have to do what Martin Delany did, what Frederick Douglass did, whose birthday was yesterday, his self-described birthday, February 14th, the day that is called Valentine's Day. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, because we know the 13th, might as well do it now in passing, is called Black Love Day. That day, which we just passed the 32nd celebration of Black Love Day, is the brainchild of the good elder, the sister here, Sekou Mama Ayo Handy Kendi. Mama Ayo is the founder of the African American Holiday Association. And if you all are from the DMV, from District of Columbia, Maryland, Virginia area, you may remember the African American Holiday Expo, which started in 1979 and went through 2004, 2005. Well, that was her idea. So people would come together, but they still have, and she's the branch. She would call herself the steward of Black Love Day, but which is February 13th. She said it's an alternative to Valentine's Day, but she and her comrades created the African American Holiday Association to have a space, and they have a website to gather all the different rituals, either ones we created or ones that we inhabit and kind of shape to our needs. So, all the so-called traditional holidays. They did that to kind of gather a space where we can document, exchange ideas on these rituals. And rituals are very important in this. So Nia Akoma is the greeting on Black Love Day, which is get a heart in tree. So get a heart. So at any rate, as I said, we just passed Douglas's birthday, and Douglas wasn't Tubman. Neither one of them was John Brown, and none of them were Paul Quinn. But the reason I put that conductor metaphor out there as it relates to you is because somebody has to gather us. In the case of Black Love Day, in the case of enumerating these rituals that we call holidays, that was Mama Ayo, and among others who have done it. But when the conductors come, you got to be ready to go. And if you're not ready to go, we will help you, give you all the help you need. But if you're not ready to go, we can't wait forever. Because after all, we got to go. Going is an important thing. So yeah, I think about Sly's catalog, Sly Stone catalog, and I mentioned, I think it was Wednesday, we were on the air, Lamont and I said, I couldn't wait to see this, and I just haven't had a chance because everything, this is February, and like I said, we ripping and running, which is fine. It's the Blackest History Month. Now I got my fancy hoodie, so I can rock this. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows. Just let you know. But up in the Sly and the Family Stone catalog, probably, I don't know. I do like the Africanized version of Que Sera Sera, whatever will be. No shade to Doris Day, because in order to have shade, you must cast a shadow, and there must be a sun. So therefore, I have no shade for Doris Day. But when you hear Sly and the Family Stone sing Que Sera Sera, whatever will be in that 6/8 time gospel version, oh my goodness, it's no joke. But I think probably even more than that piece, and we all know the hits and then the other ones that people love. I love If You Want Me to Stay, because the lyrics just speak to my soul. Because in many ways, when you think of people who people look to conduct, it can be a tax. It can have a tax. Harriet Tubman was a very spiritual person. She was AME Zion in terms of her particular way of knowing, and of course Bishop Paul Quinn was, and who became the fourth bishop, by the way, of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Let me put a footnote there and shout out to the good people at Metropolitan AME Church. I think I did it last week, but I'm going to do it again today for a very specific reason. My man Bill Lamar, his partner Dana Williams, who's dean of the graduate school at Howard. Um, when the Proud Boys came and ripped that Black Lives Matter sign down and stomped on it or whatever, and then filmed it and sent it everywhere, they went to court and sued, and they own the Proud Boys name now and label. Proud Boys can't do nothing without asking them. And so what they've done is, if you go to the Metropolitan AME Church website, they are, of course, the national cathedral of African Methodism. So you will see Paul Quinn's name up in the stained glass, along with Henry Neal Turner and Morris Brown and Richard Allen, Edward Waters, and the great bishops of the AME Church. They now have a website. On their website, you can buy a Proud Boys T-shirt. Well, they don't say Proud Boys; it says PB, and they're repurposing it now for Black purposes, for human liberation. I'm sure that heads are exploding right now, because one of the things that Reverend Lamar was saying last week, and I talked with him on the air. He was saying that there are all kind of suggestions coming in. What should you do with the name? What should you? So while they're trying to figure it out, they put that up as a place marker. And so I just texted them and say, man, I need a hoodie, because I'm a hoodie guy. And so it's like, well, we're working on hoodies, but till then we got T-shirts. All right, well, I get a T-shirt as a stopgap measure. But when you have people who serve as conductors, it can be very taxing. And what you have to do is not only receive that energy, but contribute it. It's got to be cyclical. It's got to keep each other going in that way. On Thursday, in fact, I was in class, my afternoon class, the hip hop class, Africana Studies Approaches to Hip Hop. And of course, we were just having a good time, and we get loud there in Lock Hall in the auditorium. And so we in there, and they're laughing, we're showing some stuff, we're talking, we're reading the one of the books we have, and we're connecting the dots and putting these things in context, and they're really getting animated, because I rely on these young people obviously for the more recent stuff. And it's really remarkable to me that we have reached a stage where in fact, on Thursday we were looking at Jeff Chang's book Can't Stop Won't Stop, and we were in the section where he was describing what he calls the first death of hip hop. So now you're out of Jamaica, you're out of the Bronx, you're out of the so-called gangs, the Black Spades, the Savage Skulls, all those people that Denzel Washington encountered as a kid, as he was going back and forth to Fordham and finding getting on the bus, and here go the Savage Skulls with flying cut sleeves, with the sleeves of their denim ripped up or cut up. He's realizing, man, I got to get back home. How the hell am I gonna do? I'm crossed over into this gang territory. But at any rate, you pass that now. So you pass the Cool Herc initial moment, and then you've got Africa Bambaataa, of course, and then of course you have Grandmaster Flash and Keith Cowboy and them. And they put together the Furious Five, and now the attention has been captured. Now you realize we can make some money out of this. And here come the people downtown. The people at the museums who are fascinated with people like Jean-Michel Basquiat, even as the cops kill Michael Stewart on the subway because he's tagging, but Basquiat has a different fate, at least in the short term. And so anyway, we're talking about that. We're going back and forth. And then it's amazing to me, because when I showed them some of the things that emerged as it became evident that these cultural productions could be cannibalized for profit, they had never seen Malcolm McLaren, who came from England. Buffalo Girls on the outside. They were like, what? This happened? And they hadn't seen Deborah Harry. Rapture. They knew nothing about it. I'm like, wow, this is your parents' generation, which is my generation. And so anyway, as we're having that conversation, it's enthusiasm. They're giving energy, I'm giving energy, we're doing intellectual work. And I'm in the front of the class. I'm looking back over their heads. This is about 90 seat space. And I'm looking, and there's all these young people standing outside. And it's not unusual for people to pause because we get loud. But it was a bunch of them. And I'm looking like, okay, I'm getting older, so I can't tell the difference between y'all and these undergraduates. I'm thinking, no, y'all must be teenagers, because they were all together. I said, what are y'all doing? Nothing. And this one sister had her phone out. Now she filming. I don't care. I'm not one of those people that, so all you critical race things, you got you moments, bring your cameras, because I'm seeing it here all the time, everywhere. Not only am I not scared of you, I eat you like snacks. You're not a good snack, but you can't, film me anyway. So the point, you can film me, but you can't stop me. That's what I was going to say. And so, in fact, you're gonna get a real stomachache trying to film people who just gonna speak truth to power. Ask Jasmine Crockett. So at any rate, so they filming, this sister is filming, and she's clearly older. And I said, where y'all from? He said, Syracuse. I said, oh, y'all on a tour. Yeah. I said, y'all want to come in? Sister was like, well, we got a tour guide out here. We might have to go. And the kids are nodding. I said, well, check with them and see, can you come in for a minute? All right. So they came in. Now, y'all got to tell us who y'all are. That's the first thing. I told them what the class was. And the beautiful thing about it is these are like, most of them were seniors. There were some juniors. So you're talking about a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. They aren't in college yet, but they're on a college tour. And so we're having a conversation with them. And it's a beautiful thing because I asked them, how many of y'all have been to a black college before? Not many hands went up. Okay. Well, I'm assuming y'all on a tour. Y'all didn't come from Syracuse just to DC, did you? No. Y'all going other places? Yeah. Where you going? And they had these shirts on, these t-shirts. And so, well, sweatshirts. And one of the sisters turned around and showed me. And I said, oh, so it was like a dozen HBCUs. They're going all the way down to Florida. Then they coming back up. I said, it's a beautiful thing. So anyway, as we were talking, and then, I said, okay, well, I know y'all got to go and sit. And then the sister said, can we take a picture? I said, yeah, but you got to take a picture with all of us in it. So we got all of them, all the college students. I said, everybody stand on that wall, all the students sitting down. I said, y'all just look this way. And then I got in and said, you can take it now. I said, she took the picture. Who knows whether any of those children will go to Howard? And I don't care whether they do or not. I want them all to go to school, and they all seem to do. And I told them, I said, if you go to A&T, if you go to North Carolina Central, if you go to Florida A&M, if you go to Clark Atlanta or Morehouse or Spelman or Morris Brown, hey, I ain't mad at you, but we need you here. And then when they left, I asked the students, I said, what you think they're going to do? So they were talking. And I said, the only thing I paused for a moment on in a moment like that is they may think if they come to a black college that every moment at a HBC was like the one they had in here. And then we all started laughing because every moment can't be like that, right? But I think about that in the context of how we feed each other and move each other. So conductors have a responsibility, and so does everybody else. We all have a responsibility to do the best we can, to move in the best way we can. I think about Sly Stone as I end this and continue in this third week of Blackest History Month, third Saturday in Blackest History Month. Like I say, probably my favorite song is Sly and the Family Stone, If You Want Me to Stay. Because Sly Stone, in his inveterate style, if you want me to stay, I'll be around today to be available to you to see. But I'm about to go, and then you'll know for me to stay here, I got to be me. I love that. That speaks my whole, if you want me to stay, I'll be around, be available, but I'm about to go. So then for me to stay here, I got to be me. I think that's an important moment. Sly Stone figured out a way to achieve that mix, to have the music that people could hear, the music that inspired and infuriated Miles Davis. I'm sure they tell that story. I think it was Woodstock they were at, and Miles is like, yeah, man, they paying me $10,000 appearance, and these guys getting $50,000. What the hell is going on? But of course, he got his weight up because once he connected with Betty Mabry.
Yes.
Did they
talk about how he then becomes like not just a fan. He incorporates the style into his next album. He goes to every concert and he's taking note, which is important. I think that is so important that we not just sit at the feet of somebody. We can have criticism, but take something away that you can add and incorporate to your own genius.
That's exactly right. And that's the genealogy. Everybody's not going to be the same, but there are things you can learn. Oh, good. I can't wait to see it then. Yeah, because that Electric Miles period. Miles Davis like, what the hell? And of course, Sly Stone and them are coming in, they're part of the genealogy, but that direct connection, I think, is so important. Um, in fact, it's amazing how these things converge. Think about the ongoing, I don't want, I guess I would call it a debate in a social structure sense, but not really in a governance situation. I'm thinking about, for example, now I'm looking over to see if I had it around somewhere, but no, I don't see it. Um, there's there's a there's an interview that was done. This is 30 years ago or more, between Wynton Marsalis and Herbie Hancock on this question of generational kind of movements and what would be called jazz. And Herbie Hancock, of course, who is much older than uh, than Wynton Marsalis, who of course was very young when Miles Davis brought him in, with Tony Williams and others, into his band. He says, it's all music. We're all growing. We're all learning. And Wynton Marsalis doesn't disagree with that, but Wynton Marsalis is more of a kind of, I suppose they label him a traditionalist, but I know that impulse. And his thing is, yeah, but there are standards. And when you see me, you not only see my father, you not only see John Baptiste's father, who was a music teacher, who me and my brothers would see him coming up the front porch. We would run out the back door because we ain't trying to. He said, if you catch you're gonna be on that horn for 5 hours in here. So we got to go. But ultimately, they began to listen to him and Bransford, and I mean all of his siblings. Well, they're discussing it, and when Marcellus is really almost occupying the space of the old man in the conversation. Herbie Hancock is much more generous in some ways toward next generations and doing what they do. Hancock went electric too. I mean, he can go back and forth. And with Marcellus, yeah, all of that's cool, but there's still a foundation that if you don't know that language, and if you don't not only master that language, but extend that language by referring back to it in some ways, you're not doing what we need to be doing, which is preserve the music. And I think that's fascinating to me because, even as folks saw John Batiste play at the beginning of the so-called Super Bowl, John Batiste, who is now no longer on the Kennedy Center board because the clown and his white supremacist friends purged everything, because Donald Trump doesn't care about the White House. He want to be the chair of the board of the Kennedy Center, right? Because he thinks somehow that he can bring that kitsch honey boo boo style to the Kennedy Center, and that's going to be accepted. And so, we'll talk about Issa Rae and them as well. Shonda Rhimes, shout out to all of them for saying, "Now we ain't gonna do this." But I'm bringing all that up in this context. When we start talking about standards, we start talking about living up to and moving up the standards. It doesn't mean that every generation is going to be the same, but it does mean that there are standards. And as we are trying to preserve and extend those standards in a very hostile moment, the question that Sam Jackson asked Kendrick Lamar last Sunday night, and of course I didn't see 1 second of the Super Bowl. I know you didn't either, Prof. We're not watching that football. However, which is painful. It's the second Super Bowl the Eagles won that I didn't see. I'm an adopted Philadelphian. I hope they didn't tear the whole city of Philadelphia up yesterday. They had a parade. Jalen Hurts. I mean, I saw the commercial where they layered Teddy Pendergrass up under Jalen Hurts with the love, Hurts. Nike is brilliant at pimping the hell out of African people and making us love it like the drug it is. So,
well, I mean, but he also had on that Black Panther tam.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
That young old man.
Oh, he's an old man. He's an old man. I mean, you saw, I know you did. You probably talked about it when they asked him, so you like Kendrick or Drake? He was like, yeah, Frankie Beverly live. This dude right here, Jalen Hurts in that Branford, I mean, in that Wynton Marsalis arc. In other words, I'm not getting it about, hey, they're great. It's cool, but I like Frankie Beverly. Shortly before Frankie Beverly made transition, of course, Jalen Hurts presented him with a gift. And it's like, see, yeah, this is an old man. And there's something to be said for elder in that, because the word is missing. In fact, something I'm going to be talking about this afternoon at the EFI University gathering is the question of initiation. It's the question of tradition. If you listen to the series that Adesoje and Aya Nelly are doing on Adesoje's channel, talking about these women, they did Fela Kuti's mom this week. You're doing one woman every week. Billie Holiday the week before that. The question of initiation becomes very important. She's been talking about this. Initiation. How do you become part of a genealogy? Sometimes it's accidental. Sometimes you find people, they find you. Other times, when you are exposed to a genealogy, you can make a choice to come and go. This is the fundamental flaw in American culture. The idea that everybody gets to do what they want and there really is no responsibility except just make sure everybody gets to do what they want. That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, except it's a myth. It is absolutely a myth. Even when it is a pantomime, you think that little boy that was sitting up on Elon Musk's shoulders and telling Donald Trump basically to get out the White House this week, you think he's going to be allowed to do whatever he wants? No, you're being even if he strays from it, he's not going to be allowed not to extend the project that his daddy, I'm not gonna say father, I don't know what it is. And some people were joking. I heard some people yesterday, day before yesterday, saying, yeah, after that CEO got shot in the back, maybe he's using that kid as a human shield. I don't know. But the point is this: whatever it is, he's not gonna be allowed to stray. If he grows up to be like Donald Trump Jr., who is now talking about he wants to have a steroid Olympics. They call it the steroid Olympics. He's calling it the enhanced games. I mean, the idea is however you do it, you're going to be marching along in the project. When it comes to us, I don't want to do what the previous generation did. I am not my ancestors. Okay, here we go. You do understand that power requires generational connections, and not just conceptual generation connections, but deliberate, very deliberate generational connections. And so, in that idea, then, in this Blackest History Month, the third Saturday, when Samuel L. Jackson comes out there dressed like Uncle Sam and he asks Kendrick Lamar, salutations, it's your uncle Sam. Okay, you're putting your middle finger up in the face of white America. They're turning off televisions as we speak. He says, can you play the game? No, he said, and this is the great American game. Super Bowl, the game of culture, the game of pop, all that stuff right in there, right? Well, while you're saying that, and while we're looking at this triumph, whenever Jay-Z's Judas Goat contracts runs out with the NFL, the anti-Kaepernick, just get all the black culture out there and shake a leg, and now it's done. Okay, we passed the protest, right? They ain't gonna burn nothing. Okay, country music for the next 150 million years. But the point is this: as long as it's blackety black, it's cool. We get it connected, no problem, because you're making us more money than you can ever understand, and you're not involved in any form of acquiring or extending or preserving or developing power. Now, the pantomime of power is brilliant. The influence is there, and it's important. As Kendrick Lamar would say, right game, wrong guy, right time, wrong guy. No question, you are the wrong guy, and you did a brilliant job. But, as we talked about in office hours on Monday night, Dan Charnas, writing in the New York Times last week under the headline, we expect Kendrick Lamar to save the world. Why should we expect him? Some people do. Why should he? Why could he? He can't. It's up to each of us as individuals. You got to step up. As you say, you got to get your weight up. You can't expect him to. He's doing everything he can, including marching in the streets in 2020. You can chant, we going to be all right, but then you're going to have to make that a true thing. So, artists have a role. The question is, what is their role? And when Sam Jackson asked that question of him, he says, no, 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 no. Too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. Mr. Lamar, do you really know how to play the game? Then tighten up. Okay, there's a game going on. While the Super Bowl is going on, while the performance is going on, there is an American great game going on. Those of you who are familiar with the language of international affairs and international politics as it is studied, international relations, know that when you hear the phrase great game, you're talking about geopolitics on a nation state level. And that's important for us to put down as a marker. So when you ask, do you know how to play the game? That's a different question than the great game, because there are many games, and sometimes you're playing in our faces. And so, that's the kind of marker I wanted to set down today for a few minutes. So, it was a short time ago. I was thinking about that this week. It was 8 years ago. Because Monday is, I suppose, what they call President's Day, right? And in the United States. where they talk about Washington and Lincoln's birthday. So here's President's Day, the first Monday. On Monday, the third Monday, I guess it is, second Monday. So at any rate, what you see in that day, I remember 8 years ago, we were at Morehouse. This is when Jamila Lemieux had left Ebony and was doing some work with TV One or whatever the formation was, One Digital stuff. And so she put together this thing and then asked a bunch of her friends, and in my case, former professors, because Jamila went to Howard, to come down and talk about the Obama presidency and what it meant. And so I was happy to come because I figured, I don't know, it's kind of early. Can we have that conversation? And remember 2017, this is February 2017. This is just after the clown got put in the first time. So at that time, Mark Lamont Hill, brother Mark, you remember this if you're here today, Mark, remember you was at Morehouse. He was teaching at Morehouse. And, I was like, yeah, I'll come down. And he had a bunch of people, Michael Denzel Smith, Joshua Du Bois, who worked for Obama, a bunch of other people. I think Mike Dyson came down. But anyway, so I thought it was a good conversation because it wasn't, there were people obviously who were very celebratory. I'm not one of those people when it comes to this, because I think that in many ways, African people were hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run them up, the regular Nation of Islam parlance when it comes to the Obama administration. And we talked about that. And it was a good it was kind of a celebratory move, but also a very solemn move, because we were at the front end of now what we're seeing now, that they've gotten the dry run done and they're back a second time, Trump as avatar, and the rest of the people enabling him, saying, hey, we didn't even realize we could run it that fast. Okay, this next time we do it, we're going to run a Boston. So now we're in the Boston phase. The thing that people were scared of from 2017 through 2020, that's the thing that's here now, you see. But I'm thinking about that today because how short our memory is. It's not the fault of subsequent generations. That's our fault. We have to surround young people. We have to surround generations with the enthusiasm, the energy, the deep immersion, and then we have to initiate them. Meaning be your full self, because I'm about to go, and then you'll know. For me to stay here, I got to be me. So you can't alienate people, you understand? But at the same time, you have to engender the type of cultural connection that affords the, respect is an overused word, recognition that you know us. And so we move forward. As Dizzy Gillespie said at Louis Armstrong's funeral when interviewed, and they said, who is Louis Armstrong to you? And this white musician had said, white music critic had said, Louis Armstrong is the beginning and end of American music. They asked Dizzy Gillespie, who is he to you? Dizzy Gillespie said, know him, know me. Now they're very different. But when you hear Dizzy Gillespie, you hear Roy Eldridge, you hear Louis Armstrong. And even when there's generational tensions, as Louis Armstrong's critique of the bebop era and Dizzy in particular, you then still see them perform together. There's a beautiful clip out there. You can find it on YouTube of John Burke's Dizzy Gillespie out of Chirac, South Carolina, and Louis Armstrong, that son of New Orleans, together playing Dizzy Gillespie's song Umbrella Man. And these are two different generations. And they kind of clowning each other a little bit in it. So you see the intergenerational thing, but you also see the love and respect. And it's a beautiful thing to see them together. And the reason I raise that in this context is that to be initiated into a tradition means that you got to be tested. In music, they call it rise and shine. Okay, get down on the piano, let's hear it. We can tell in a few bars whether or not you should stay on that stool. But there's a concept now. You do what you want after that, but I think, which is when Marcella's point often, and I don't think Herbie Hancock would disagree, but the idea that, when we were gathered that President's Day 2017, was that this next stage in our struggle has been passed. So let us reflect, let us reassess, let us move forward. But if we had been there in Morehouse that Monday, 8 years ago, this coming Monday, and you had told us that where we were here, that what was going to happen now in this form, I think there would have been widespread shock. There would have been widespread sadness. And knowing me, I'd have just busted out laughing. Because my thing is, It's inevitable. You're going to have to fight these people. Do you understand that there's no way to avoid what must be worked out? We done spent almost 5 years in here. And almost every week this comes up. The idea, I mean, a couple of years ago, and y'all go and look in the compendium, search the Cold Civil War. Understand that there is nothing surprising about this. The only surprises are surprises in apparent difference. In other words, these muskrats that are scrambling around looking through your tax records and your Social Security right now, that's maybe a surprise in terms of the brazenness, maybe not if you really stop to think about it. And the fact now, because apparently one of these guys that got caught up in this Pizzagate mess was on the plane that the Christian soldier Pete Hegseth took to Europe this week. So, yeah, it ain't somebody going to Comet Pizza up here on Connecticut Avenue looking for a basement because the Democrats and Hillary Clinton and they're cooking babies and eating them. No, this time it's 3 boys in Doge caps showing up at San Francisco City Hall to say, I'm going through the records, show me where the records are. Yeah, that looks like an apparent difference, but underneath it is the similarity. This is the Tea Party on steroids. This is, before that, this is the know-nothings of the 1850s. This is the Klan of the 1920s and 30s. It keeps coming back. You're not going to be able to avoid it. So if they had said, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen, I probably would just start laughing. I said, well, thank you. Now we know what we need to do to stop it. Because you're going to have to fight these people. And as I said, by the way, just footnote before I continue, I said Angie's going to be at Clark, Atlanta on the 25th. Tuesday, the 25th of February. So not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, 5:30. She's in conversation with the Mac Henry Jones, the great Mac Jones. People may be more familiar with his two children, Tayari, the novelist, and Bomani, the sports commentator and public figure. But Mac Jones, one of the towering figures in Africana thinking, particularly in political science, one of the founding parents of what we call Black politics in the university setting. But at any rate, Angie's going to be down there. They have a Mac Henry Jones Department of Political Science at Clark Atlanta University. Shout out to my man, Mauli Davis, fantastic lawyer there in the Atlanta area, a comrade, an age mate. And he and Angie are going to be in conversation around this question of Africana legal studies, which again, you're talking about intergenerational dialogue, testing, initiation. What Angie has written about and talked about calls protocol. In other words, there's a method to this. This is how you put this up. And they're going to be doing it in public with young people. And so if you're around there, come on out. And, some of you all may be able to root around and find the information, but I've given you everything you need to know in that sense. So then the question becomes, again, in this week where we're still buzzing about the Super Bowl last week, what is power? What is power in the context of an under assault concept of rule of law, not just in the United States, but globally, and we'll talk about that too in a minute. So what does it mean? Sam Jackson asked Kendrick Lamar, do you know how to play the game? He's standing on the console and everybody's got the thought pieces and they're breaking down all the symbolism. And here's Serena. Yeah, I remember when she crip walked at Wimbledon. Here she is again. And she used to go with Drake and her husband back and forth. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great. That's like saying Pizzagate, Proud Boys. That's the American game, but not the American great game. Because what's happening now is by the time you figure out that all that stuff is surface, then it might be too late for you to do anything except enter the next iteration of full-scale oppression. It's not going to be whips and chains, at least not initially, at least not if you're an immigrant, because as Guantanamo Bay is already beginning to fill, as people are already being put on planes and sent out this country. Not the first time. My super radical friends who try to say that, none of this is new. This happened in with Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Okay, at this point now, you're just being dogmatic. But that too is not new either. Go back to the 1930s, they had those dogmatists. Read Ralph Ellison, he'd tell you about dogma. For that matter, listen to John Henry Clark, who hung out with the communists and the socialists, who would tell you, I am a socialist, I'm a Pan-Africanist, and I'm all of that at the same time. I don't see no problem. But these dogmatic people who, I don't care what you say, they got a thing in their head. Yeah, those people, we still love you, but I'm about to go. Then you'll know. But at any rate, the idea then, of asking what is power is an important thing. We heard Kendrick Lamar, right time, wrong guy. Revolution would not be televised. Then at the end, turn the TV off. Okay, we get the message. People turn the TV off for the Beyonce Bowl last December. So November. They'll turn TV off after that. And in fact, the number of people watching did go down by millions after Kendrick Lamar came off stage. But then the fact of the matter is, you're still on those devices. What is power in the context of the American great game, not the American game? Wade Nobles, Baba Wade, in his oft repeated definition, power is the ability to have other people accept your definition of reality as their own. Power is the ability to define reality and have others accept your definition as their own. This is today's New York Times. This is the business section of the New York Times. You see here? See the words in yellow? Common sense, common sense, common sense, common sense, common sense, common sense. Both Trump and Fox News describe his new policies as simply judicious. They're using the phrase common sense. President Trump saying it. Carolyn Levitt, oh my God, talk about DEI. There's only DEI in the world is whiteness, friends. Because if Carolyn Levitt was black, she would be nowhere near DC, near the neighborhood, near 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, not even Pennsylvania Avenue, much less in the White House unless on a tour, much less in the press room, not unless she's just taking a picture, much less briefing from. Come on now, do you know what DEI is? It's called whiteness, my friends. Then Chris Wright, Secretary of Engineering, Jesse Waters on Fox. Oh yeah, and there's Kayleigh McEnany on Fox. In other words, yeah, they have synced it. The Super Bowl streamed. The Super Bowl played on Fox News on television and streamed live on Tubi, both owned by Rupert Murdoch. Power. It's the ability to define reality. And that's important, but then you've got to get other people to accept your definition as if it's theirs. So, also news today. Let me see if I have this. Oh, no. Come here, Carr G. Woodson, because that's where we stopped last Saturday. We're going to pick you up in a minute about. Don't worry, I didn't forget. Was it in the paper or was it on the website? I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking through the paper here again, because I will read the physical paper because it's important to have that ritual. Oh yeah, I definitely want to talk about this. I'm gonna put my finger here. I'll just quote this very quickly. Some people may have read the news over the last couple of days. It was reported by the New York Times, where I swear I saw it first, that Donald Trump is like, you know what? This part of the White House lawn, I want to pave it. So it looked like where Mar-a-Lago, because I like to sit outside and play music. And that part would be the lawn that where the Rose Garden is. I'm gonna tell you what this hillbilly getting ready to do. Come and listen to a story about a man named Jed. He getting ready to pave the lawn. Now the debate is, will it be concrete? Will it be limestone? Will you put outdoor wood? So if it's, it's gonna be a little bit more. And I read some of the comments as people were talking about this. So you can keep the roses. Yeah, but you got rid of them crabapple trees. And then Jackie Kennedy is somewhere spinning in her grave. Don't matter. We don't care about that. But because there is no tradition. I'm not being initiated in anything. I'm sending a message. I do what the hell I want. Then he said, in the same argument, I'm going to put a chandelier in the Oval Office. Oh, that man, honey, boo. This is the, I'm going to use a phrase that is often used as a pejorative, and it should be used as pejorative, but I'm going to use it as the term of art that it is meant to be used as. And in fact, I think you talked to this lady who wrote this book, White Trash, on the several centuries history of this basically intra-white class warfare. I don't care how much money you got in the bank. This is a white trash move. You're going to stick a chandelier in the ceiling of the Oval Office. You're going to pave over the lawn in front of, hey, I don't have a dog in that fight. Because when Michelle Obama says, I never forget that I live in a house that was built by slaves. No, you don't. You live in a house that was built by people who were captives, Madam First Lady, with all due respect. And you also live in a house that when the British came here in 1814 in the rematch to the Revolutionary War, some of them captive people let them in to burn the place. Even as another of the captives cut out the picture of the portrait of Stuart Gilbert's portrait of George Washington that's on your dollar bill and rolled it up, instructed to have it rolled up and taken out when him and Dolly Madison was fleeing. So there's people on all sides of this, but I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't care. You many times y'all done blown the damn White House up in these damn Afrofuturist, or not Afrofuturists, in these science fiction movies and Independence Day. You always blowing up the damn White House. White House down, so and so down, so and so down. You always blowing it up. So don't get mad now when you put the equivalent of Jed Clampett. Actually, that's not true because Buddy Epson had much better morals than Donald Trump. But at any rate, now that you don't put the apprentice guy in the place, power is the ability to define reality and have other people accept your definition as if it's their definition. He also said he wants to put $100 million ballroom on the White House grounds. Doge is not about saving money. Doge is about taking your money. It's very simple. We continue, but just review. It's what we've been talking about. The social structure of this country, and then the Africana Studies framework. The governance question is, who are we to each other? So let's think about this. Again, I'll come back just for a moment to Brother Lamar, Brother Kendrick. In fact, this is a great book on Kendrick Lamar. I even put it in the, every day or every couple of days, I'll put 2 books out, Black History Month, just for people to encourage them to read. Today, in fact, I reminded folk of this book, the great book by Jacob Carruthers. I'll be talking about this a little bit today. This is the 30th anniversary of this book, Medu Neter, Divine Speech, a historiographical reflection on African deep thought from the time of the pharaohs to the present. This is a beautiful corrective for anyone who would use Hotep as a pejorative. So for those of your friends who got that poison in their mind, give them this. They can read it, and as they read it, they'll feel the poison bubbling up. There'll be a little vomit initially, but after that's done, their whole brain will be clear. Their system will be clear. They should read Medu Neter. So I tweeted this one out today and put it on Blue Sky and other social media. But this is a good book on Kendrick Lamar. I like this book. It's called The Power and Poetry of Kendrick Lamar. Promise that you will sing about me. This is Miles Lewis's book. The reason I like it is because it is in, as you say, proper digestible format. I'll just show you some of the, it's got a lot of pictures. The words don't overburden. So, it's generationally, it's attractive. It's got the different colors. You can see and it's also got a lot of commentary. There are a lot of people talking in here. Let me give you just a little bit of a sense of some of the people who are included in this. It isn't just Kendrick Lamar, and it isn't just one person writing about it, but 8 chapters. And among people, you've got everybody from Alicia Garza, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Let me flip through and I'll just catch a couple. Actually, this guy right here wrote one of the Sly Stone books I was talking about. There's a riot going on about the music of Sly and Family Stone. He was at Vibe and XXL, a bunch of other places. J-Rock is in here. I mean, it's a lot of different voices in here. Very good book. But I say that to say that there are ways to enter a conversation that allow for a lot more insight. It just takes a little time, and sometimes you have to be initiated in it. So, when Ken Lamar says at the Super Bowl, you can't stop it, it's true. Let's look at Trump, who has combined influence, which Kendrick Lamar absolutely has, with whiteness and capitalism, and is reducing the United States of America, stripping it down, because he's the signing pin for it. He's the avatar for it. Everything that is being done, he ain't got nothing to do with it. They're going to give him things to play with like a baby or under someone who has mental incapacity, which of course he does. But, here, you take the Kennedy Center and play with that. Bring Kid Rock and dig Lee Greenwood out the grave and give him something else. I mean, he's around, but you know what I mean, metaphorically. And, J.D. Vance, Usher Vance's wife, put her on the board, all this kind of thing. And Shonda Rhimes said, I ain't sticking around for this. Issa Rae said, I'm canceling myself. Okay, good. And it was like, yeah. They getting ready to pave over the Kennedy Center too. No problem. I don't have a dog in that fight, even as I've been to the Kennedy Center more times than I can count. Like we talked about here a few months ago, went down there to see Cassandra Wilson and Sonia Sanchez and them do the tribute to Max Roach and Abby Lincoln. Of course, I saw my man, Nick Payton, the great jazz artist, my brother, Nick Payton, out of New Orleans, who in many ways kind of is a figure somewhere between Herbie Hancock and Wynton Marsalis, who has himself been in public discussion and debate about that concept. I saw him do an original suite. He composed a whole suite around the music of Louis Armstrong because he's part of that genealogy, a master musician. And while he was performing, had what they call now a turntablist. We say a DJ up there because he's incorporated hip hop into that. But this man can blow any kind of horn. He would tear the top of your head off with that trumpet while he's blowing the trumpet and playing the keyboard at the same time. Nick Payton is a genius. Seen him at the Kennedy Center. Doubt he'll be back soon, anytime soon. So, but they're gonna give Trump that kind of stuff to play with. Meanwhile, they are after the entire ball of wax, not just domestically, but internationally. We'll come back to that in a moment. They're reducing this project down to its essence, which is a white nationalist settler project. I don't care what the demographics look like in this essence, because if we're going to change anything, we're going to have to realize that the culture, that the music, the cultural meaning making is very important, but it is not in itself power. Power is the ability to define reality and get other people to accept your definition as if it's own. Power is the ability to do what we saw on Sunday. Super Bowl ads for this Super Bowl ran, as you talked about, prior, for close to $8 million for 30 seconds. They sold 51 minutes. That's what the ad folks are saying. They sold about, well, that's not an hour, but 51 minutes of 30-second commercials that ran for nearly $8 million per 30 seconds. It's almost $1 million more than last year. And at some point in the next few years, they're going to reach $1 billion for that less than an hour of time. Why? As one of the ad executives said, quote, "It's very difficult to find a large audience at once. You know what it is? It's the shared experience." I watched the 13 plus minutes of Kendrick hours after. I'm not going to sit here with you because for me, there's something very spiritual in terms of a way of knowing. There's something very serious about a communal activity, even if you are physically by yourself. Remember club quarantine. There's something very powerful about everybody doing something at once. John Clark once said, he used to say this all the time. He said, if you got everybody African in the world to stomp their feet at the same time, the world would change. He said, if we all did something together, even if it was wrong, it would change everything. John Henry Clark, man. He's right. So imagine millions of people tuned in watching this. Some people mad, some people cheering, some people, yeah, but everybody's pouring that energy into that little screen controlled by Rupert Murdoch power, the ability to define reality and have other people accept it as if it is yours. And then looking at that and saying, this is power. Oh, it's influence. And what does that influence lead to? Well, let's think about it. The cultural moments that are created, the cultural moments that got created on Sunday. 2023, I remember Ben Affleck and them, Jennifer Lopez in that Dunkin' Donuts commercial. Ben got paid $10 million for that commercial. And that commercial received 7 billion impressions for Dunkin' Donuts after it aired. 7 billion individual, at least according to the tabulations that I read. That's like 1.5 billion short of how many people there are in the world. That means some people watched it 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 150,000 times in thought pieces and blah, 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 blah. Did you see? 7 billion. So $10 million ain't no money to pay him. The clown understands that. So does this guy who's on the spectrum, who was standing there with his son. Basically, the little boy's like, get off behind my desk, my daddy's desk, and it's going to be mine after you. We got you surrounded, chief. But the point is this. One thing the clown understands, one thing that Elon Musk understands too, is that influence can be converted to power, because what you're doing is recruiting people into consent in their own evisceration. Twitter. He bought Twitter $44 billion. That's crazy, right? But what you see now, let me see, this FT, Financial Times Weekend. You all have been reading this, and people have been reporting on it, so I'm just going to mention this if I can find it quickly. It might actually be in the business section of today's Times, because the Times tends to lag behind the Financial Times. New York Times lags behind the Financial Times, because this is the money. Well, actually, this is not what I was looking for, but under the headline, TikTok back on U.S. app stores following Trump reassurances. Yeah, TikTok ain't going nowhere. Yeah, that cosplay. HBSC. No. Y'all give me a second here. No, it wouldn't be this deep in the paper at this point. Yeah, it wouldn't be deep in the business paper. Let me go to the paper of record for the Western Hemisphere. Business section. Here we go. All right, same place I was just telling y'all about the Fox impressions. App stores have TikTok again. Tariffs. What is value added tax? Yes, World Trade Organization. He's saying it's here we go. Yeah, here we go. This is the paper. This is today's paper. Y'all see that? Interest spurs banks to sell $4.7 billion of X's debt. What does that mean? Well, when Elon Musk bought X for $44 billion in 2022, more than a quarter of what that was financed by loans from banks, including Morgan Stanley, as we talked about last week. Banks normally quickly sell off such loans, but in this case, they kept much of that debt because investors were reluctant to bet on the social media's companies' floundering businesses. So they took on the debt. It's Musk. But nobody want to buy the debt. That's what they do. The banks buy the debt, then they sell the debt and make money off of selling the debt to somebody else. On the individual level, that's them people calling y'all house talking about you owe us, but that ain't the place you took the loan out. They sold that loan. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about, particularly with student loan debt. It says Mr. Musk's newfound power in President Trump's administration has helped change investors' minds. On Thursday, banks sold roughly $4.7 billion of X's debt, according to two people familiar with the transaction, more than the $3 billion that they had originally intended to sell. Mr. Musk, who has become a close advisor to the president, they could have took a close advisor out, and is running a government efficiency initiative, a rogue one, running over any notion of a rule of law and revealing, taking the U.S. down to the studs, that power is the ability to define reality and have other people accept your definition as if it is own. And you saying this guy ain't elected to nothing. No, he's not immune from prosecution. He's breaking all the laws. He got boy toys, his muskrats in there looking through your social security number, got your bank router information, all that stuff. And people are going to court to stop him. And then Junior Varsity Vance said the courts can't stop nobody. It's authority. It is legitimate authority. Meaning what? Oh, you can run over the the judiciary branch. There are three branches of government, not in Junior Varsity's world and not in your world. Not in your world if you accept their definition as your own. So now this is a big thing. Why? Because X, Twitter, is a platform that now they don't send memos out. They don't call press releases. They go on state media. Y'all know state media in them propaganda movies that they tell you that it's the Russians and the Chinese and they got state media and there's no freedom of speech. Well, now you log on to state media every day and they say crazy stuff. And then you say, they crazy. Then you tune it out or say they crazy, or you talk back to them on their own platform saying they crazy. And then you've accepted it's little by little normalizing it. And the people who make the money are now saying, oh, shit, this is the way it's going. So now they ain't scared. Now they buying the debt. Now they are buying the debt. $4.7 billion on Thursday and more to come. Fascinating. Now, as they buy that debt, what are they also buying? They're buying access. And they're also telling you, y'all ain't going nowhere. And guess what? Oh, this is actually, I didn't even get to the thing. Here's the thing. Remember what I said? It'll be $1 billion worth of Super Bowl ads in a few years. They're inching up toward that. $8 million almost for 30 seconds in terms of the ad. Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. Shoot. I'm gonna close the paper. Give me a second. Here we go. This is what I wanted to get to. Here we go. X has become a go-to platform for information on the administration's plans, which I said, which Mr. Musk broadcast to his account of more than 217 million followers. Here's the sentence. Advertisers have returned in droves to X. People familiar with the deal said, fueling a boost in revenue. The company told investors that its revenue in December jumped 21% from a month earlier. A person with knowledge of the finances said, why do I raise that? Looks like another love TKO. Oh, I guess Teddy Pendergrass laid up under Jalen Hurts. And they put the little Nike ad out, paid the millions of dollars. Looks like another love TKO. Y'all said he couldn't throw the ball. You said he wasn't a leader. Then they just showing him. They gave him a check, but you gave him more than that. And now they coming back to an open white nationalist, anti-world, anti-community, going to build a spaceship and leave you here while he flies off to God knows where. Got a baby in the White House trolling the guy who they elected to be the signing pen, and we watching the TV and all them eyeballs. Power, the ability to define reality and have other people accept it as your own. This is the Blackest History Month. It isn't just about Black facts, because for a moment, it was in fashion to have Blackness at the center of many things. Didn't change the power relationship, but gave us some sense that perhaps we could leverage that access into something else. That's a Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl. You know, when Sean Carter says we're past the kneeling phase, who is we? My friend? I don't know who you are. Actually, I do know who you are. And I ain't mad at you. I have no dog in your fight because you don't define my reality. If I want to listen to your music, fine. If I want to listen to you and Nas, if I want to listen to you on Nas's album, feels like a Black Republican, money I got coming in. Can't turn my back on the hood, too much love for them. Can't turn my back to the hood. Said, F it then. In other words, feel like a Black Republican, money I got coming in. Can't turn my back on the hood. You didn't turn your back on the hood. You brought the hood to the Super Bowl, put them on stage, and put a young genius on stage, one who has been initiated, no question about it. One who said right time, wrong guy. No, right time, right guy, Mr. Lamar, because ain't nothing going to change. Do you know how to play this game, Mr. Lamar? Do you know how to play this game, Mr. Jackson? Yes, you absolutely do. But at the same time, now it's no longer fashionable to have the Blackness in your face. Let's go to the front section of today's New York Times. People talking about you can't cancel Black History Month. No, you can't. You cannot cancel it. And that's why we're here Saturday after Saturday. That's why we have Knarrative in Nubia. That's why some of the conversation we're having today, we read through that op-ed by Dan Charnas on Monday night in office hours. So those of you who have a Knarrative subscription and haven't yet come into Nubia, you need to come in, because this thing on Monday is getting bigger and bigger, and it's important for us to anchor these conversations. This is today's New York Times. Visit by Hegseth's wife set off diversity rollbacks at U.S. NATO schools. So while this clown is over here in his tight ass suits with an American flag pocket square getting laughed at by the leaders of the defense units in NATO, his wife is walking around through the schools run by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, checking for posters, checking for books. This is the opening line of this article by Jenna Smialek and Eric Schmidt. Quote, Harriet Tubman posters, origami paper cranes, and rainbows have been disappearing from the halls of the American schools at NATO headquarters in Belgium, a response to the Trump administration's rollbacks of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Teachers were worried that they would be seen as signs of Black, Japanese, and gay culture, and thus run afoul of the new rules in Washington. What's the new rule? The new rule is the old rule, white supremacy. You can't put that Black up. Why? Because ain't no Black people here. You know, the next step is you can't have no Black people in here. Why? Because that offends the white people. Yeah, this child right here seems to be having a perfectly lovely time. Yeah, but that other one over there with the cell phone trying to film you talking, and you said Black, and you was talking about the color of your shoes, but they used it as something to get you up out of this classroom. How in the hell there are no rules except that you define reality and you make them accept your definition if it's as if it's your own. This is at the heart of critical race theory. You know what scares the hell out of them about critical race theory? Critical race theory reveals the fact that there ain't no rules except the ones that society agree on. Let's continue for a second. But the rush, they write, to comply with the administration's directives intensified this week after educators learned that the wife of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth planned to visit their campus on Thursday, according to 4 people involved in the preparations for her visit, who all asked to remain anonymous out of fear of retribution, including job loss. You don't get lost. You lose your job because Harriet Tubman is on a poster. At a poster, friend. On a poster in your classroom. Come to my house. Come to my house. This is the book we were talking about, Combi. This is Etta Field's Black book on Harriet Tubman. Come to my house. Why don't you, let me stop. You ain't got to come to my house, because you come to my house, what you're going to find out is I'm just one. They can't stop nobody. You want to take a poster down because you're scared you're going to lose your job. We understand you got to navigate the thing. But at the same time, we also have to understand that when enough of us decide different, the thing changes. This clown, junior varsity, running around there getting laughed at by NATO. Here come Pete Hegseth getting laughed at. Here come his wife. She coming. Take the posters down. Get the origami. Do y'all understand where we are? Do we understand? I'm gonna say y'all. I don't even like that phrase when I see it in social media. Y'all need to, don't do y'all. It's us. We all in this mess. As we're gonna talk about in a minute at Jacob Carruthers conference, what Dr. Carruthers used to call the mess. We are in the mess. Martin Kilson. Remember, we were in office hours, those of you who are in the intro course and in office hours on Monday nights in Nubia. I mentioned Martin Kilson in his book on Black intellectuals. We read a piece from it. I'm looking for the excerpt, but I don't need to do that. Kilson wrote in that book, and we read the passage and talked about that when we're talking about ways of knowing now. By the way, this coming Monday, we will start The Eloquence of the Scribes. We're going to do that book in 2 weeks. That is the book by Ayikwe Armah. I'm just mentioning it now, so I won't have to in a minute when we pause for the week. This is the book, The Eloquence of the Scribes, a memoir on the sources and resources of African literature. Ayikwe Armah, there's Professor Armah right there. So we'll be doing that this week. But Martin Kilson, last week, when we were reading from Martin Kilson, he was talking about how, he was a product of what he calls that second generation of scholars that were at HBCUs, the Horace Mann Bonds and those who trained him like that. He was at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. And he said somewhere in the 70s and 80s, he said he begins to track what he says is a turn among what he would label as intellectuals toward culture. In other words, he said, moving from the idea of galvanizing intellectual work, thinking work, to acquire power or to maintain power or to extend power, and channeling it into understanding, expressing, celebrating, interrogating, questioning culture. It's an interesting proposition because that can leave you with brilliant cultural productions, cultural meaning making, like what we saw at the Super Bowl, and no power. I'm not talking about the power to schedule the performance. No. Is that power? That's influence, for sure. And people say, well, is there a distinction without a difference? Of course, there is a difference. We're not talking about billions of dollars. We're not talking about controlling nation states. We're not even controlling about the city you live in. Shout out to Eric Adams, now on what must be a terribly uncomfortable leash. We're going to drop these charges, but not without prejudice. Without prejudice, not with prejudice, meaning what? We drop the charges, but we can bring them back anytime you want. Now, I want all the immigrants out of New York City. And only 5 people are going to live here. That's right. Trump Tower, we're going to buy the rest of that block. In fact, Eric, I want you to come down here. I want you to loose the police on everybody. And while you're at it, we're going to change the name of New York. You don't run the city council. Okay, we're going to do whatever we can do that you let us get away with. We own your mayor now. Now the governor, Hochul, they says you should remove her. She not going to remove the mayor. Y'all think Kelly Hochul y'all friend? Anyway, Martin Kilson said this turn he notices, this thinking work is moving toward power, from power toward culture. Now, is there anything necessarily wrong with that? We have to balance what we call in the Africana Studies framework, movement and memory, the 6th and final category of our 6-category conceptual framework, which asks the question, whatever you're studying at any given moment of time involving African people, how did or do Africans remember what has happened before? How do they capture the momentum of memory? How do we think about those things? When Biggie says something like, I've been robbing since the slave ships with the same. Okay, that is an insane anti-African lyric that also reveals the internal governance challenges we have to grapple with in that one in particular class, I think, more than anything else. But it also evokes a sense of movement and memory. Slave ships you're identifying with, son of Jamaica by way of Brooklyn. And in a previous song, in another lyric, you start talking about black like Toby. Where does that come from? I mean, you think that people then, white people or people who, don't have any momentum of memory as relates to Africana, be like, that's a lyric. What? Toby? What's Toby? Okay. Now, on Sunday night, I don't understand a word he said. How is this noise? Like, nah. And then one thing you did understand was A minor, which is a minor difference. But the point is, you're listening to that and you don't understand a word that was said or any of the context. Meanwhile, your 6-year-old is walking you through the whole thing. Power is the ability to define reality and have other people accept your definition as if it is theirs. And so we have to balance. We have to balance that momentum of memory with pouring it into some type of organizing, some type of galvanizing. This is Carter Woodson. This is where I'm going with this on Blackest History Month, because Woodson was a master of connecting the momentum of memory to governance formations that allowed us to acquire power. This is what Martin Kilson is writing about when he said, when I was born and raised, when I came to adulthood in the 1950s, I was exposed to and trained by and initiated into my work by thinkers who understood that we're not just studying for the sake of study and celebration. We're studying to contribute to the acquisition and preservation of power. Carter Woodson understood that. Woodson could write like he did because he was independent. We have narrative now. We have Nubia now. Independent. Now, what happens when you're independent? You can say, I'm about to go. And then for me to stay here, I got to be me. In other words, you can't get rid of yourself. So what you do is you find ways to modulate yourself when you find yourself in spaces you don't control. You see? How many of us in social structure formations find ourselves in spaces where we don't control? If you want me to stay, I'll be around today to be available for you to see, but I'm about to go. Then for me to stay here, I got to be me. And Sly Stone told you what it was in the lyric. It's a different thing. Federal workers right now, there are some people in right now who are nervous. This man that told you ain't got no job. The so-called probationary people, they just get rid of them. Why? Because you don't have any access yet to the union. You don't have, you're not in the collective bargaining unit yet. So they figure they can just get rid of you. Some people say, F it, I ain't trying to 75,000. I just look, man, I'm getting the hell out of here. I can't, man. Then you got people, I was watching just a little brief clip because I don't watch Bill Maher. I can't stomach it. But, I'll watch clips sometime. Larry Wilmore, I saw him in a conversation, maybe late last night, where he said, my father was a federal worker. He was a probation officer. He went back to school, but that job allowed for benefits. It allowed for a certain standard of living. It certainly kept us indoors. Our parents did everything they could. My daddy, I'm talking about Greg Carr's daddy, Haywood Haskell Carr. My father worked for the Veterans Administration. He was a World War II vet. My Uncle Bill, my Uncle A.B., them guys was World War II vets. VA hospital. My daddy worked in dietary service. VA hospital allowed for a standard, allowed him and my mother to put their money together and buy that little house we was raised in South Nashville, the one that real estate violence committers are always trying to get out from our cold dead hands, you bastards. But the point is this: federal work. There are people nervous now, right now. Elon Musk is beneath me. He's beneath you. He's beneath all of us, not as a human. He breathes the same air, eats the same food. I'm talking about the hatred that diminishes our common humanity in his breast. He is absolutely on the spectrum. I'm not talking about his brain wiring. I'm talking about his concept of culture. But if he can define reality for you and you accept it, well then, not only is he different, he's more human than you are. This is the challenge we face right now. So I'm going to kind of start winding this up in a second. What, if anything, in a moment like this, is the role of the artist? How could we tell when they succeeded? We're not talking about Josephine Baker. This is actually a new book that just came out. It's actually Josephine Baker. It's a memoir. It's called Fearless and Free, a memoir of Josephine Baker in her own words. They recovered this Very interesting piece. It was first published in France, 1949, but it had never been published before now in English. So she's talking about those years she spent in France, the years she spent as part of the French Resistance. So it's not just performing, it's not just culture. She's involved in fighting the Nazis, spying, which we all know, but we get this now in English in our own words. But I was talking about this the other night with some of my law students, and one young brother said in undergrad he took a class on African people in France, and he said his professor was like, for a long time I couldn't stand Josephine Baker, and they asked her why, and she said, because I'm an African, was raised in France. In many ways, how Africans from the United States came over and said, I finally experienced freedom. I experienced, a kind of flexibility I didn't have in the States. Not just Josephine Baker, James Baldwin. He said, in some ways, it allowed the French to wrap around and fetishize them and exclude us from their colonies. I said, damn, I never thought about it that way. Not as succinctly as you put it. This is how the politics of nativism separate us at the very moment we should be coming together. Because guess who don't believe in any of these lines on the map? Elon Musk, Steve Bannon. But guess who will cling to that flag of the United States like it's your master? The descendants of slaves. And guess what that engenders? It engenders a suspicion. It engenders an intolerance, even, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it, a hatred between and among African people based on where you came out of your mother's womb. So when he said that about Joseph, I said, damn, that makes a lot of sense, because we centered our captors as if somehow their logics should be our logics. Power is the ability to define reality. Now, Kendrick Lamar wasn't going to bust up at the Super Bowl with red, black, and green flag and those guys swinging red, black, and green. He's going to put red, white, and blue on there, and that's fine. I understand. No, it's not fine, actually, at all. But I do also understand that while Paul Robeson, if he was alive, might do the same thing, he would very quickly then say, I am an African, and I'm part of an African world. Now, this is ungovernable in a way. It's a problem, because you got all these people looking at you. You got these billions coming to our coffers. We're watching you from the skybox, having a good time. Congratulations, Tim Scott. I see you wormed your way into the back row of the skybox. Congratulations. But at any rate, we watching, and then you unfurled some old global black stuff, and then I choked on my hors d'oeuvre. Oh my. Because as long as they can keep you captured in the American bubble, they can make their money and say, yeah, it was protesting. Yeah, my teenage son likes it. But at the end of the day, we're still going to make this money and control this thing, because they still are trapped within these boxes we call nation states. Well, it is, and I'm not accusing Kendrick Lamar of that either, because we all remember, I think it was the Grammys where he had the Africa projected against the screen and Compton was written on it. It's a beautiful moment. And I'm not saying you have to do that all the time. This isn't a critique of Kendrick Lamar. I don't have a dog in that fight. I'm too busy working on these clean glasses of water to start critiquing hip hop. No, they're not going to do that. But the point I'm trying to raise is this: in this struggle we're in this struggle that is involving great game struggle between countries and nation states, we have to understand that we have to expand the momentum of our memory, and that artists that do that, whether it be Paul Robeson or in some way Josephine Baker or Miriam Makeba, we have to not only elevate them, but not expect that people who are literally continuing to profit from our genius to do it. The Kennedy Center, I love going to the Kennedy Center. It's great. But let's be clear, I ain't got to go down there another time in my life. You know how many places we can go to see ourselves and to invite others to be in dialogue with us? I'm going to close with Carter G. Woodson in a minute. Yeah, Linda McMahon at the Department of Education is problematic to me, because not only would she mess with people's money and student loans, not only is she going to try to take your public dollars and put it in private schools and charters and vouchers in a way that excludes you. By the way, I think we can use the First Amendment that way, and maybe we get some of that charter school money and some of that voucher money for the African-centered schools. I'm absolutely thinking that. They're not checking for that, and I think we should be thinking very seriously about that. In fact, I've been talking with some folks about that. But yeah, that's a concern. But she ain't got no regulation on what we do week after week, day after day, month after month, year after year in this space. So if you are someplace where they don't have a class. If you are a high school student or a middle school student or an elementary school student, if you are in a space where you don't have a lot of resources, but if you can find some adults and some other people who can put some resources together and do what these elders in Syracuse did, which is get you on a bus and send you some of these physical places where you'll see a bunch of young people who look like you and who can spark your imagination, you know what you can use Saturdays for? To get the intel that there are places like that. And I'm in open space. Me and Professor Hunter are here all the time. She's at somewhere 7 days a week. Me too. We're here conducting, conducting, conducting. We are playing the African great game. See, because even as South Africa this week said, oh, US, you want to do some tariffs? No problem. We're taking the important thing. What, the money ain't important. The money is a proxy for the thing you want from us. And maybe we don't give you this stuff no more. And now we don't want Elon Musk back. And yeah, you can take every Afrikaner you can get out this damn country. Then we can take their land. See, we're part of our land back. This is part of a globe. Don't cut yourself off from the people of the world. It's very important. You got to sit with that silence. You got to sit with it to think about it. And if you do that, you will find that the challenge we face is to live wherever we are, but to connect to everybody else wherever they are so that they becomes a we. We're past kneeling. You past kneeling. You go over there because you the one was talking about Prada jeans, Filthmore bra, Prada jeans, Gucci bra, Filthmore jeans. Take that off. Yeah, give it to me. Give me that stuff, that sweet, that, yeah, that's fine. Because you're a hustler, baby. I know you want us to know. It's not where you been, it's where you about to go. I don't care where you go. Go with God. You know, it's a beautiful thing. You have a lot of skills, a lot of talents. You can flip a lot of stuff and they can buy you with the pocket change. Because your friend Kraft, Robert Kraft, who's friends with Tom Brady, when Tom Brady shows up in the United States Senate and he votes against everything that you claim to be for, guess what? That same Tom Brady that was in that Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Ben Affleck in 2023 that got 7 billion impressions, that's when you're going to realize that this was never about cultural access. Integration is what they want. They want to integrate you into the field of vision to secure the public resources. White nationalism is property. And these are all real estate agents. They want the real estate and all of the property in a white supremacist mind is theirs. So for Elon Musk, we want all the property. In other words, I need somebody to give me all your tax money. Why? Because I want the private property. I want the public property. That's the apparatus to get it. And the death knell for them, the death knell for them, my friends, is the attempt to merge it all and claim it all. You know what happened to junior varsity yesterday? Did you see what happened to this circus clown? This rookie? First of all, they sent tight suit Pete Hesbeth over there. Look at this. Look, this is hilarious to me. This is on page A1 actually at the time. Actually, it's on the front page of, here it is. Let me in fact, I'm about to do Woodson and then we're gonna go. This is the front page of New York Times. I'm sorry, the Fast Times Weekend. Look, Vance lays blame for Europe's plight on, quote, threat from within. Look at this. Look at this. This is the face of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This man went to Yale and Harvard, out the hillbilly Elegy Hills. Then the apartheid billionaire says, come here, boy, we got a job for you. We're going to stick you as the Manchurian candidate in the White House. Now he done vomited all over Europe, talking about the problem isn't Russia. The problem is these immigrants you got in your country and free speech. You should have free speech. Then he meets with people from the AFD, the Alliance for Democracy. That's the neo-Nazi party, neo-Nazi adjacent party in Germany. And guess what? That's the one Elon Musk is using his platform that they're now offshoring debt for, and people ain't left. And the reason they're acquiring the debt because they say, oh man, wait a minute, they make it money. And all them advertisers for the stuff we buy looks like another love, TKO. Love hurts. I'll get you what hurts more, capitalism. At any point, he's interfering in the German election. So this boy goes over here, his lapdog, and says, y'all should let him. Free speech, free speech, free speech, and get rid of them dirty immigrants. Guess what? The Europeans is like, boy, you better get off the plane. This is the New York Times this morning. Vance implores Europe to accept extreme parties. Here's junior varsity again. But guess what they said? Look, we can't get rid of America right now, but you crazy. And let's be very clear. The death knell for white supremacy, particularly the white nativist type that's coming around in the US right now, is the attempt to merge it all. This is Steve Bannon, and then claim everything. Because in a white supremacist mind, with white supremacy being property and them being real estate agents, it all belongs to us. This has always been the illusion of white supremacy. 10% of the world's population, white, a tiny fraction of that white nationalists and white internationalists like Elon Musk, and we're going to claim it all. Meanwhile, finally, Carter Woodson, as I said we would do last week, we get a chance to. Carter Woodson, in the address that he gave in Baltimore, February the 10th, 1926, this was the first Black History Week, Negro History Week, and we are now on the 15th of February, approaching so-called President's Day in this country. This is the moment in time that marks the time in February that Woodson began the week. Let's just do that. By the way, I saw the mayor of Baltimore, just a quick footnote, Brandon Scott announced on social media that today in Baltimore, they're having the first Black History Parade. Shout out Mayor Scott. I don't know what they're doing up there, but if y'all in Baltimore, go see if you can find the Black History Parade. I don't think it'll be hard to find. The mayor's going to be there. All right, back to what I'm about to say. I'm not going to read this whole thing because we've got 2 more weeks in the Blackest History Month, as you see my beautiful hoodie, and we will continue. But I'm going to read just a couple of paragraphs and we'll keep going. As you remember when we started this, and of course, for those of you who remember, this is from the anthology Readings from Negro Authors, one of my favorite books for schools and colleges. Ms. Hegseth, you, your mama, your children, your great-great-great-great-grandchildren, you can't do nothing to us. Why? Because while you over there trying to get Harriet Tubman posters off the wall or scaring people to take it off before you even get there in a self-check, don't resist in advance. Tim Snyder tried to tell y'all that, but you gonna take the poster down because you scared. While you doing that, we're here, and guess what? You can't regulate us. So if you don't have access, you have access. That's what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This isn't a quick advertisement for access like, I don't know, Hillman Talk or whatever that is. And that's a beautiful thing. It serves a means to an end. This is the end that's a means to. Okay? Let's be very clear about that relationship. Okay? TikTok's not going to get delisted. Elon Musk is not leaving China. They just opened a $200 million battery plant in Shanghai this week, Tesla plant. So don't worry about Elon Musk breaking off relations with China. Oh, the parade is Monday. Thank you. The parade is Monday. I thought it was today. Thank you. Monday. Oh, President's Day. That makes sense. Well, I'm not mad at these Black people in Baltimore. Y'all just showing out. Damn, can I get up there? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, Readings from Negro Authors, as y'all remember, this is the book, right? This is Carter Woodson. Woodson says this. He says, and I don't know where else this appears because this was published. This was a speech that they got directly from him. So Artelia Cromwell, the great Eva Beatrice Dykes, and Lorenzo Dow Turner got this speech from Carter Woodson. I haven't seen it anywhere else. Maybe somewhere else. I don't know. He says this: not to know what one's race has done in former times is to continue always a child. We said that before. Quote, if no use were made of the labor of past ages, end quote, it has been said, quote, the world would remain always in the infancy of knowledge, end quote. This is Carter Woodson. Dr. Woodson goes on to say, this is a speech he gave. He says, the Negro knows practically nothing. And I'm going to edit the pronouns because he says his history. I'm just going to say their. The Negro knows practically nothing of their history, and their friends are not permitting them to learn it. Hegseth, Christopher Rufo, you clown, roaming around in the Department of Education building, the wrestling, Linda McMahon. Ain't nobody worried about you. While we fight you in the courts, while we fight you in the institutions, we're not fighting you here. We're too busy working, you see? And if you want to come in here and be in the dialogue, no problem. We're going to reach into your soul, turn it inside out, and show it to you. Find out if you got any humanity left. All right. The Negro knows practically nothing of their history, and their friends, he got friends in quotation marks, are not permitting them to learn it. The Negro is therefore referred to as a childlike race. It's 1926, friends. This is 1926. This is the generation before Claudette Colvin comes to school in Alabama, and Rosa Parks meeting Claudette Colvin after she's arrested. Rosa Parks, who starts the youth division of the NAACP in Montgomery, not only recruits Claudette Colvin into that NAACP through that youth formation, but makes her the secretary of the youth formation in the NAACP. You see, what you gonna do when your master don't want you no more? Do you know how to play the game? I think we do, because we used to know. Woodson continues, he says, writers in the meantime, however, have surfeited the Negro with that sort of history, which is merely the record of the successes and disappointments, the vices, the follies, and the quarrels of those who have contended for power. Woodson says this is downright propaganda. Understand what he just said there in that sentence. He says, when they give you history, they're giving you white history with the wins, the losses. You start talking about George Washington like that's your founding father. You take sides in a war that you had nothing to do with. You say, yeah, we fought the Indians, but wait, what are you doing? One more time. Woodson says, writers in the meantime, however, have surfeited the Negro with that sort of history, which is merely the record of successes and disappointments, the vices, the follies, and the quarrels of those who have contended for power. Jacob Carruthers, writing in Medu Necher, says this. He says, rather than set up an interview schedule with the great issues of white philosophy, white history, he said, African champions must break the chain that link African ideas to European ideas and speak to our ancestors without interpreters. 2 generations before, Carter Godwin Woodson says, you better put down that history where they talking about the fights they had and you trying to pick a side between their fights. Oh, the Chinese and Russians, what we got to do. Who is we? Elon Musk's not we. He in China. Would you really turn down a Chinese electric vehicle from BYD that is better than a Tesla and cheaper? No, but you're going to let that clown put up a tariff and stop you. By the way, maybe this will get your attention. News from Europe. They getting ready to put a 50% liquor tax. Oh, somebody was in here for the last hour and 41 minutes, and it's the first thing they heard. Not most of us, but what? Yeah, liquor tax, friends. Oh, you gonna put a tariff on us? We're gonna double the tax on our exports to you. You want to tax ours? No, I'm sorry. You want to tax ours? Guess what? You can't sell no American liquor. When them liquor store prices go up. Anyway, let's continue. Last paragraph. He says, I'm just going to do 2 paragraphs. I'll do the rest next week. Viewing history from higher ground, people have spoken of it as the complement of poetry, a picture, a mighty drama enacted upon the theater of time, with suns for lamps and eternity for a background. Come on, Carter Woodson. He says, the world's history, then, according to a distinguished man, is, quote, a divine poem, of which the story of every nation is a canto and every man a word. What does that mean? All of us as humans have stories to tell. All of us as communities of humans have cultural meaning making, movement and memory, our governance formations that we can pour into a collective social structure and remake the structures we are in. Jack Perez talks about speech. The Yoruba talk about speech. Amadou Hampate Ba, in the article we read and discussed over the last 2 weeks in office hours in the Africana Studies Hour that we do together, referred to the idea of the doma, or what the French would call the what the French would call the griot, mistakenly talking about this question of speech, mouth to ear, transmission from generation to generation to generation, the thing that strengthens the backbone of a Kendrick Lamar, the unbroken genealogy between a Louis Armstrong and a Roy Eldridge, and after that, a Dizzy Gillespie, the line that would allow a Miles Davis to recognize in Sly Stone perhaps some friendly competition, perhaps urging him on to greatness, but also an unbroken line that goes all the way through and then empties into the next generation, whether it be Prince or Robert Glasper or whoever's coming after that. The idea of this unbroken genealogy is important because he says the world's history, then, according to a distinguished man, is a divine poem, of which the story of every nation is a canto and every man a word. A canto, of course, being a form of music in European opera, European classical music. It's a not time signature. It's a song. Its strains have been pealing along down the centuries, and though there have been mingled the discords of warring cannon and dying men, Yet to the Christian philosopher and historian, the humble listener, there has been a divine melody running through the song which speaks of hope and halcyon days to come. I made a mistake. I should read the third paragraph, and this will be it. How important then, because this is where he contrasts, this is where Woodson contrasted. This is just the first page, last paragraph. He says, how important then is it to have the printed record as, quote, the witness of the past, the instructor of the present, and the monitor to the future? If a race has no history, if it has no worthwhile tradition, it becomes a negligible factor in the thought of the world, and it stands in danger of being exterminated. The American Indian left no continuous record. They did not know the value of tradition. They left nothing to stimulate the race. And where are they today? This is controversial. Woodson is incorrect here. But in that moment in 1926, again, going all the way back to what you said, Prof, at the beginning, we have to see people in their totality. Woodson is even going to change as he goes through the rest of his life, which has another 24 years to go after he starts Negro History Week in 1926. But that's fascinating, isn't it? Because in 1924 was the Supreme Court ruling that extended the right of citizenship to all indigenous people. So there was still this very difficult relationship with indigenous people. Woodson is looking at them like they took the straight L. He continues and says, even as he's incorrect in terms of that transmission, he says, the Hebrew keenly appreciated these values as attested by the Bible itself. There's one more sentence after this, but I want to pause on this sentence because we talked to Justin Hansford, my man Justin Hansford, who's at the Thurgood Marshall Center at Howard yesterday. Y'all will hear it if you're on Sirius XM. We're going to play that interview on Thursday because we also talked to Yvette Clarke, Congresswoman Clarke, and Dr. Garvey, Julius Garvey, because on the 26th of February at Howard University Law School, 6 to 8 p.m., they're all going to be there. We'll all be there because, you know, for a debrief and a what's next in terms of the Garvey case and the pardon and all that. So everybody will be together, including Dr. Garvey. So you don't want to miss that if you're around. But in the conversation, what Justin revealed to us, which you'll hear on the air when we air it, was something that people don't know. He said, because he said, we've been working on this for years. So we thought Obama was going to do it. And then, you know, as it got time, the clock is running on Biden. We got all these people. And then somebody made me aware of something. This is what they told Justin. Somebody at the White House. They said there are charges that Marcus Garvey was anti-Semitic. What? And I said this, you'll hear in the interview. I said, what? Remember that speech Garvey gave where he said, as Palestine to the Jew, so Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. Now, even Garvey wrong on the Palestine question. He's looking at the parallels between the attempt to colonize Palestine in the 1920s and African people. It's fascinating. Again, this is the 360 view, right? And he said, yeah, I know. He said, but he then tracked down, Justin working this team, tracked down, I think, the great-granddaughter of one of Marcus Garvey's lawyers who was Jewish, who said, no, Garvey was not anti-Semitic. And he went through the description. You had to listen to the interview. You can hear everything. He said, I don't know whether that was the deciding factor or whether that was the reason they never pardoned Garvey all along, but I'll tell you right now, it didn't hurt. Garvey got that pardon. What if it was because of a nasty rumor by people who ain't read a word of Marcus Garvey? Ain't nobody said, oh, he's anti-Semitic. Okay, well, we can't touch that part. My God, Carter Woodson finally says the Hebrew keenly appreciated these values as attested by the Bible itself. One thing you ain't going to accuse people who are deeply immersed in a movement and memory formation that you might attribute to an Abrahamic faith tradition, whether it be Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. If they're true students of either of those three, they're going to have an unbroken genealogy. Here come the American Negro talking about, we started naked in chains, talking about give us free. Last sentence, Carter Woodson says, in spite of worldwide persecution, therefore, they are still a great factor in our civilization. That's what we should remember. We are the foundation of human civilization. We are the foundation of human society. Anything less than that, and we have allowed other people to define reality by accepting their definition as if it were ours.
Thank you. Thank you. Listen, I know you have a lot to do today. We are I feel like it's like,
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Hey, are you going to see this? Well, this ain't it, but this is, look, if y'all want to, like,
I
y'all
am.
got,
I have tickets. I am only because, and you know, and this is the thing. When you talk about Carter G. Woodson, you quoted Biggie, who was in his 20s rapping about where he was in his life.
right.
He didn't get to become 30 or 40 or 50. We're actually watching Kendrick Lamar grow as a
Yes.
person as well.
Yes.
And you and I are, you know, of a certain age, and you're coming into a special year, and I'm right behind you.
Yes,
But
ma'am. We
we're so,
together in it.
I know I'm so different than I was 5 years ago,
Me
and
too.
this is the space we have to give ourselves. So I said all that to say, you know, I was like Anthony Mackie, but then I had to think, if we don't support a Black Captain America who is standing on principles
That's
and
right.
ideals that we care about,
That's
because
right.
we don't like Anthony Mackie, that's so silly. That's so silly. So I bought tickets.
Good.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because Reba Kelsey sent me a screenshot, not screenshot. She took a photograph with her camera of the Atlanta Journal Constitution, and Mackey gave an interview down there. He said, "My brother went to Morehouse. I love Atlanta,"
Yep.
and he's talking about the role. And in reading the role, he's like, "Yeah, you know, this is why this is the greatest country in the world." I said, "I know you gotta say that. You might even believe it." But then he said, "But this Captain America," he said, "this isn't about America. It's about values and character. And do you know that they made him walk that back?" Because again, yeah, because they had to. When they say America, they don't mean character and values. They mean white supremacy. So what I'm saying is, they're already trashing the movie. I done seen some reviews, and I'm saying, y'all can't accept this. But guess what? Two things very quickly. Don't go anywhere. I'm saying this very quickly. The #1 movie in China, I was reading this yesterday in China Today, or day for yesterday. They've taken in $1.2 billion since they opened on the Lunar New Year. That movie is Chinese. The top 10 movies are Chinese. And one of the film critics in China said the days that we watched Kung Fu Panda and was like, look at that animation, them days are over. That's #1. #2, they weren't checking for Black Panther like that. Africa, it blew up. The Caribbean, it blew up. Listen, y'all, if you're outside the country when Captain America Brave New World shows up, you buy tickets too. Because you're going to make the mistake. The United States not the only place this movie is going to play, y'all. Let's support this movie, right? You know what I'm saying? Not because we love Marvel so much, but because we love ourselves. Anthony Mackie said, this ain't even about him. Oh, no, you got to walk that back. I said, come on, man.
Yeah, we got to be intentional. We have to be intentional with everything.
Everything.
And you know, I'm inviting people. I normally don't do this. If you are committed to the work, and I love that somebody said they joined Knarrative, but they haven't been in Nubia because they're catching up with the lessons. You know, they're catching up with the meta nature. They're catching up with all, like, we have a lot of other things. And Akil Parker is going to be doing a hystematics class starting on Thursday. You know, we have a lot of things
coming. Thursday's the launch.
coming on Thursday. We doing it. You know,
if you got a child that struggles with math, sit with Akil Parker. I promise you.
Yeah. But he's grounding it in our history,
yes,
in our relationship, because you have to have a why when you're studying these, you know, these practices. You have to have the why. You can't just, you know, 1 + 1 = 2. You got to know why we even have math. So he's starting it there, and I'm so excited by the work that we're doing. I'm excited by the books we're producing. I'm excited. Yes. And if you want that hoodie, you can only get it if you're a member of Knarrative.
Oh, that's no, is that what it is?
Yeah, you know it's exclusive. You know.
Oh, no, I didn't realize. You know, you know that. I'll ride because that's my DNA. I don't like it. But I mean,
but it's the Africa for Africans. You know, we are doing something and building something. It's great to be on YouTube, but that's not where we live. We live in Nubia Knarrative. So if you want to be able to,
I live in the world. So I mean,
I know you do. I know.
You know what I'm saying? I live in the world. But yeah. I'm 10 toes down. I'm 10 toes down. But yeah, my thing is we got to overwhelm them, and we're doing it. We're overwhelming. Because they ain't nothing.
But it's hard to overwhelm when our foundation and base isn't set.
I agree with that.
So let's get the pillars and the cornerstones in place, and then let's go.
All right. I love you. Hey, listen, y'all, come to the conference if you want, the Jacob Carruthers conference. I thought I put the they're starting now. Let me see if I actually put it here. I don't think I did.
I didn't see the link.
Yeah, I don't think I did either. I don't think I put it in. I thought I had it. No, I don't. But if you give me a second here, I think I might have it here. because I got to jump off and change clothes. You know, I'm going to see these Yoruba people. I can't show up in the hoodie. I'm going to put on some clothes. I mean, some African clothes. So
Yes.
yeah. I don't see it. Doggone it.
Okay, I'll look for it.
Yeah,
It's
it won't be hard to find.
Jacob Carruthers.
Yeah. Wait a minute, hold on. Wait a minute, let me see. Oh, wait, I know. I see here. Here we go. Let me do this because it's on Eventbrite. If you go
Annual,
to,
yeah, I see it. 20th annual.
yep.
Yeah, I got it. I'll drop it. You know, my search skills are
Your search skills are undefeated. My gosh.
legendary. I mean,
Hey.
you know, to do a 3-hour live show where
Look.
people throwing stuff at you, I'm like, shit, you know,
My
I
man,
don't want to be wrong. Let me Google search real quick or Yahoo search.
that's like my man. Look, I am tickled. Daryl tickles me to know he don't miss nothing. Daryl, if it's musical and it's been recorded, Daryl gonna find. I'm like, Daryl,
he was sitting for 20 years with Joe Madison, 4 hours under the ether. You know, this is light work for him. Being with you and Lamont and Omi and Shauna Renee is easy for him.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, love you. We ready to go. Love y'all. See y'all Monday night.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Don't hate the white. If you get bitten, just hate the bite.